So this is a series finale of sorts because usually I always had time to. How am I saying it off talking like basically I have a job, and before I had like in the middle between after graduating from college and getting the job I have now, I had so much time in my hands, so I was reading like crazy, and a lot of that was the library. And the more I was like, it was sometime one time I just checked a whole bunch, and I realized then, oh, I can read like 25 books a day, and that's what it was. It was 25 books a day for the longest time because I had all the time in the world. But then it kind of like halted that, and I kind of went to maybe like 21 when I was putting in applications. I started putting in applications and started getting more interviews. I started putting I put it down from 25 to 21. And this stack here was kind of like a series finale of sorts, where it's not from the library, it's my own personal collection. I wanted to make it my personal collection, so I did the last few. Just trying to read books, not because I had so much in my personal collection I wanted to read, so once and for all doing that. But it's basically how it was the library, but my personal collection is what I'm trying to say, but I'm failing out of that. But basically, if you've been watching my YouTube channel for a long time, and I do the reviews of several, like a bunch of books, several books. This is the kind of a series finale of that. I'll still be reviewing comics, but it'll be like less so. I mean, I have one more. The stack I'm getting at the library. Once those all come in, I get all those. That'll be a good amount too. But I'll be obviously reading it slower than I usually do because I'll have less time on my hands to read. Let's get on with it. First up is A Wrinkle in Time. And this is a good example of a fun example. It's a fine line between being a book that's, because it's targeted towards kids. It walks a fine line between being purely for kids and no one above the age demographic is going to enjoy this, and being the book that anyone can enjoy, young or old. I think this is worth checking out at least once. I would say if you've read the novel and you're into comics, to check out the graphic novel version, which this is a graphic novel version. And I just read this as the first time. I read like bits and pieces of the novel, but I decided to pick up the graphic novel version because was in the comics at that time, and I felt like that would be the best way to read it for me personally. Now the movie the recent movie I've heard is like really stupid and it's asinine, I guess. No, not the word. It's like ridiculous and not in a good way all the time. And it's just laughably a bad movie all around. And I think what it is that because what it is, and most people they'll say like when they're reviewing it, they'd say, "Oh, it has a really good idea, but the execution is terrible." I think the execution here is probably what the movie should have been. I would say at least. There are certain things in here that I'm kind of rolling my eyes at, and I think that there are certain elements in here that do feel like being not talked down to children, but it feels like, okay, man, it's obvious. It's a kid's book, so they talk in this manner, and I think in those regards, that's kind of hurt the pacing of this book overall. And it wasn't a total pain to read this each time I had to pick it, each time I read it, because I read it per chapter. And sometimes I'd read, because it's a thick-ass book, I'd read several chapters per day. And those days, it was a bit arduous, it was a bit of a hassle. But overall, I would say this is worth checking out at least once. Now, am I going to read this again? Probably not. I probably would consider giving this away to, like, a subscriber, or to, like if I ever did, like, a subscriber giveaway, which I don't ever do it. I don't do that anytime soon. Just because of the way that everything is, but I don't know how to do the. Anyways, this is good enough for at least one read through. I think everyone that's interested in it would like it. They wouldn't think it's terrible, wouldn't think it's great or anything like that. It's just good enough to read for one. Good enough to read at least once. That's good takeaway. Good takeaway. Why can't I talk? Why can't I just not get my ideas out, even though I have the ideas in my head? I just I jumble the words. It's terrible. But basically, I think all I need to say is what I say, and then just not add on to anything. Just move on. Here, we should put this a little closer. It's way too far back. My Friend Dahmer. Now this is, I read both the graphic novel before and watched the film adaptation before. And first time I watched the movie, I really enjoyed it, and I think I had read the graphic novel beforehand. Maybe I didn't, and I just knew there was a graphic novel afterwards, and I picked it up. Maybe that happened. I don't remember. That's been a long time. Um, at least 2018, 2019, because I'm going by what the sticker says here. Yeah, usually sometimes it'll be like I'll have like several years before I pick it up, but usually it's only like a year or two. And 2020 seems like it was too soon, so I would say 2018. Ironically enough, when I was graduating high school. Now this takes place in Jeffrey Dahmer's high school years, so it's before the murders. And that's something I think that this movie does well, is that it's more the psychological side and the murder side. They don't want to glorify the murders or be accused of glorifying the murders. They just want to show like his psychological side. And I think the graphic novel does a damn good job of doing that. And everything that Durf wanted to do, that's his, it's not his actual name, I don't think. But everything that Durf wanted to do, wanted to, all his goals he wanted to accomplish with this graphic novel, I think are accomplished wholeheartedly. And I think this is definitely, even if you're not into graphic novels, if you're even like slightly interested in Jeffrey Dahmer and like that side and the psychological side and like wanting to know more about Jeffrey Dahmer, this is the best place to go, because Durf Backdurf was his friend in high school. Obviously, it was kind of like, I would even hesitate to say friend in high school. He saw the warning signs and kind of backed off very quickly, but definitely knew him the best, I would say, out of everyone, except for his family, of course. But even then, I would say, even disregarding, I would say even knew him better than his family did. So this is like the best one-on-one that you're gonna get with with Jeffrey Dahmer, unless Jeffrey Dahmer did an autobiography or had a diary that's unearthed a few years from now, which I don't think it would be. I don't think he ever did it. I don't think he ever wrote a diary. He was too busy doing other shit. The movie adaptation is good, but watching it right after the graphic novel, other than doing a comparison, like what's the difference type of thing, there wasn't a whole lot of enjoyment, because I think the movie kind of, it does what the graphic novel does and tells the story, but it doesn't try to do anything different than that. Makes several changes, some weird changes, and adds a couple scenes. One in which I wonder if it was Hollywoodized or whatnot. It's from an independent studio, so I want to say no, but it's not in the graphic novel. And I would say, like, the graphic novel, why wouldn't it be in the graphic novel and it's in the movie? Maybe the graphic novel had to be a certain amount of pages, and Durf wanted to be a certain amount of pages, and that was the way a story was told, and the graphic novel and the movie is kind of different, so he wanted to kind of, like, in the movie, he was like, okay, I want to put this scene, doesn't fit the graphic novel, it fits the movie more, so he put it in the movie. Maybe that's what happened. But either way, I would say each is worth checking out at least once. But the graphic novel, you'll probably go back to sooner than you will the movie. Like, I've read this, I want to say twice. I'm going to be reading it for a third time very soon here. It was also one of those, because of how long it had been, it was one of those graphic novels that I had forgotten a lot of what happened in it. Next up, we have Ghost World, and half of this book was very, very slow. Almost, well, not almost. It's slow to the point where I was kind of bored, and I put it down. I was like, I can't read this anymore. It's too late in the night. I'm going to bed. And the next morning came, and then I was like, okay, I read these books today. Maybe I'll get a Ghost World, but I never did. And it was like, after the fact that, because I usually I have a system for when I want to finish these books, when I want to finish them, and this I was way far behind on. And when I finally got down to buckled down and finished it, the second half was much better. And it was one of those books where not only did the second half, the first half was took me 2 hours to read, took several breaks. The second half took me an hour, not even, maybe 45 minutes to read, even with a couple breaks. That's how good the second half of this book was. So half this book is good and half the book is really good, but I would still give this a 7 out of 10. Maybe a 7.5, because that second half is really, really good. And it made me think of maybe because I was expected, this is the reread, maybe with the reread, I thought it was going to be much different than it was, you know what I mean? It was going to be more like the movie, because the movie, going off the trailers, I haven't seen the movie in a long time either. Like, I haven't read the graphic novel in a long time. So maybe I was just thinking it'd be more like a movie. It kind of isn't. Again, judging off a trailer, because it has characters that aren't featured in the graphic novel, and if they are, it's very brief. But in the movie, they're fleshed out a lot more. Maybe that was what it was. And I don't mind like indie movies, A24 movies. Like I whenever I see a trailer and I see A24, my interest is already peaked to a higher degree than it would be if it was any other studio. I don't check out every A24 movie, but still, if it was like, check this out. Oh, A24, okay, now I'm definitely checking this out. Kind of like that thing. So I do like independent movies. I do like indie movies. I really liked Ghost World the first time I watched it. So maybe all that being said, like I should have really liked a whole entire graphic novel at once, and it was in general, and it was only 80 pages, so maybe that was another thing I was expecting to be more fast paced, but it's not, because this book definitely takes time telling us the story. But all in all, I would say this is definitely worth checking out, but just know it's gonna be slow as the first half. Then we have Old Haunts. This is by Rob Williams. I don't know why I'm going with the author, because I didn't go over the author for the first book, and then not Ghost World. But someone I'm going to mention the author. The author is. Some I'm not going to, just because, well, because there's no reason to, for kind of sort of. There was no real reason to. I don't think there's a really reason to. But Old Haunts, Rob Williams. This one was my second Rob Williams book I've read. First was Martian Manhunter, which I'll be reading again very soon here. It's one of the library books I'm getting. Actually, I already have. So that video will be uploaded once I get the rest of the library books. It was one of those times where I had to go earlier. Like, I couldn't wait till everything came in for me to go. And I thought everything would be in this past week. It wasn't, which is fine, because the ones I wanted to come in were in at least. There we go. But yeah, Martian Manhunter was one of them. But I want to say it's the only... And then I read Star Wars. This is my third Rob Williams book I've read. And the third is The Charm. Third time's The Charm. Because this one I really enjoyed. Now, this is kind of all over the place. But I think it's all over the place where I missed a few details. And the details that I missed were important details. But even then, I want to say that it was still all over the place. But in a really good way. In a way that you don't really care, but you kind of... I couldn't tell you each character's name. Ollie Masters. I said Ollie Masters and Rob Williams. I fucking hate co-authors. Because what did Rob Williams do? Did he do the story? Did he do the dialogue? What did he do? Did he write issues 1 and 2, and Ollie Master, or did he do issues 1 through 3, and Ollie did issues 4 and 5? I really wish what they would do is they would be contractually obligated to say Rob Williams had a story, because sometimes they'll do that. So maybe I just don't understand that. And yeah, I know people can still co-write books, they can do both and still co-write. It's what. If I really enjoyed this book, is this because it was Rob Williams doing, or was Ollie Masters doing? Now, Ollie Masters, I read The Kitchen, several times. Really enjoyed that. Another book, ironically enough, I feel like it's all over the place, and I miss a lot of details. That's why a reread is mandatory. And that's another thing. That makes the reread that much more mandatory, but not in a, kind of I gotta do it, a homework kind of way. No, but in a, I want to read it, reread it kind of way. Because I want to catch more details and see what I missed the first time around. So this is definitely worth checking out. I will, if I remember to do it, I'll do a out of 10 when this is over. You know what we'll do? We'll do it right now. And now, from now on, as I'm reviewing them, I'll do it out of 10. But right now, just to get guys caught up, Wrinkle of Time, I will do, I'd say a 6.5 out of 10. My Friend Dahmer, 9 out of 10. Ghost World, I'd say 7.5 out of 10, that's what I said. Old Haunts, an 8.5 out of 10. So there you go, all caught up with that. So from now on, when I review the book, I'll say, this is the book, yada yada yada, so I thought about that, yada yada yada, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, that thing. I shouldn't have said that, because that implies I'll be doing 2 at a time, but 1 at a time, you know what I mean. Next one up, in this one, so when I go over the books I'll be when I do these videos, I first do a these are the books I'll be reading for the next few weeks. And sometimes I'll have I'll finish 5 books, and I want it to be the same amount that it was before. Like if it was 25, I finished 5, it's 20, and it's still close to 25, so I'll add in 5 more books. But I won't make a video saying, here's 5 more books I'll be reading, and that's just gonna, not redundant, but a bit unnecessary. I did it last time, the last stack of books I had, but that was because I just kept adding books, and then I was just, you saw the video, you know what I meant. I'm not gonna, but I did add one of them. I did add, and I just one. I did more than one. I added a good amount. Okay, I added a lot. One of them is Black Science. Jesus Christ, why can I say words? Rick by Rick Remender. Now this one is known to be. Why do you say this one like that? Why can I talk? This is like one of Rick Remender's like highly acclaimed series, and I would almost say that it's one of those ones that's like everyone that reviews it says it's kind of almost underrated because everyone talks about Low or is run on Uncanny X-Force. But this is definitely considered to be one of his magnum opuses, and I thought it was pretty good. Like with Old Haunts, I lost the plot, and I missed a few details, I don't know, but it's definitely all over the place, definitely sci-fi, and as sci-fi comics and stories go, they get really convoluted and all over the place. This is definitely one of those instances. But I would say this is good. I would say this is good. Maybe it's one of those books that gets better as it goes along. And as is right now, like I'm eager to check out the second volume. I have all 9 volumes in my personal collection, and I will be checking them out this month. Do 2 at a time to finish it by the end of the year. So I want to do it by the end of the year, and then December 31st, New Year's Eve, I'll go over all the Image books I've read this year that are in my personal collection, because I'm trying to get like some Image books read too. That's like the number one thing. I don't usually, not boycott. What's the opposite of boycott? Like isolate indie publishers. But Image Comics is one of those ones that was like, I want to, if I'm reading, if I can only read like 2 books in my personal collection, I want at least one of them to be from Image. And this one I chose. Next up, we have Once and Future by Kieran Gillen. And Kieran Gillen is one of those writers that I think is really talented. I think he is almost like underrated, because a lot of people give him shit for like, oh, he wrote this book, so I only like that book, but I think he's almost underrated, and Once and Future is a good example of a series that is also underrated, because no one really talks about it. Yeah, it's from an independent publisher, it's not for the big 2, so it's not like the big guy is talking about it, but this is definitely on par with Wicked and Divine. I would almost say it's not as good, but it's not like this is still, okay, so forgot. Black Science, 7 out of 10. But this is definitely, so Wicked and Divine was like a 10 out of 10. This would be like a 9 out of 10. Not as good as Wicked and Divine, but not like noticeably so. But this is definitely everything that all of Kieran Gillen's strengths in writing is present here. It's fast paced. It keeps your interest. It has well-rounded characters. It has surprising twists and turns here and there. It keeps you on your toes. You're on the edge of your seat. That kind of thing. This is definitely the kind of comic that you want to read if you want to read something that is, first of all, that you want, if you want something that's modern fantasy, you got that. And if you want something that's going to be like you're going to want to almost binge read it. This is a good binge read, because there's 30 issues, I believe, maybe a little bit more than that. It's 5 volumes, like 5 of these. So 6 issues per, so now it's actually like 36, I think. I don't remember, I thought I was off my head. No, 30. I was right the first time. No, 25. No, it's 6 per. 6 times 5 is 30. I was right the first time. But yeah, Once in the Future. 9 out of 10, I think I said. Lock and Key Volume 2. A prime example of a sequel being better than the original. Now, the original, maybe it's because I've read it, the first volume, so many times, and I'm reading this the first time ever, but I really enjoy this volume. I think it got even better as it went along. It has characters in here that are so damn memorable. Like, usually I'll forget things. It's not because the story is forgettable or anything like that. Usually, it just, when my brain works, I work through repetition. But every now and then I'll read a comic series that has such well-rounded and interesting and just well-written characters and just all my, like, memorable characters that even, like, my second read-through, I'll remember, oh, yeah, this is that character, they know, all that stuff, and I won't forget anything about the characters. But this is definitely, like, if you like horror, if you like the Netflix show, but you want it to be a bit more mature, that's what this is. I have no idea why they made why they watered down the Netflix show compared to the comics. Comics is TV mature, and the TV show is like TV 14. And I honestly think it's only TV 14 because of, like, there's some language maybe and some violence. When I remember, I have not finished the series. I'll be doing that very soon here though. That's another thing I'm gonna try and do when I get back to work is read less, but still read, like, at least a few books per day, but a few comics per day, but also get on the several TV shows I'm meaning to either jump back on or watch it the first time. And Lock and Key is one that I need to get back on. I'll be starting from the beginning, it's been so long, but jumping back on. But definitely worth checking out. I give this a 9.5 out of 10. This is easily a pick of the week. Now, pick of the week so far is Once and Future and Lock and Key. I don't include rereads, so my friend Dahmer is not included as a pick of the weeks. Pick of the week reread would probably be one that's coming up pretty soon here, but as far as the actual rereads go, Once and Future and Lock and Key are those ones so far. So keep that in mind. The Boys, Volume 1, Omnibus Volume 1. And this is one I've read all 14 issues of, and the first time I read it, I thought it was way too slow. And I was one of them, and I agreed, I was one of the many people that had said the show was way better, and the comics almost aren't worth checking out. Rereading this again, I think that was a stupid statement. And I honestly think that's it's their opinion, obviously, but I almost think it's a very stupid statement to say that. Because they say, like, oh, it's too edgy. Oh, yeah, it is, but I think, number one, that's a point, and two, it's not as bad as it could have been. I mean, again, I've only read the first volume, so maybe it gets worse as the series goes along, but I almost want to say that the level that we're at right now is a level that is to be expected for the rest of the series. I could be wrong again, but I almost want to say it's going to be the case. Now, the TV show I still think is better, but only because every flaw that is in the comic is completely nullified in the TV show. I think the TV show has much better pacing, just all of them more all of them more investing. You're more inclined to watch another episode than read another issue, but only slightly so. Only because of how good the writing is in a TV show. It's almost like it's like a second. This is the rough draft, and that's the final draft, or it's a director's cut that has, like, all the shit that they didn't want to put in, but they were forced putting because the studio made them put that in and took all that out. That's kind of what a TV show was like. But I still think the comic is worth checking out. I still think the comic is a damn good book, a damn good read. I give it an 8.5. It's definitely another Garth Ennis masterpiece. Next up, and this is another contender for pick of the week, is Harrow County. This is a first time read, and this one, Cullen Bunn is among, next to Brian Azzarello, one of my favorite authors of all time. I've read their stuff and I've not been disappointed at once, except for Cullen Bunn's King Arthur book, which was The Holy Grail. Not The Holy Grail, Unholy Grail. And even then, like, maybe another reread, I like it a lot more. And what's kind of funny is the publisher of Unholy Grail is Aftershock, and I like Jimmy's Bastards by Garth Ennis, but I didn't like We Live by, I forget the author's name. It's not another one I liked by Aftershock I can think off the top of my head. But I also didn't like Unholy Grail, so I think I always want to say it's the publisher. Sometimes it's weird. Like, I know it's the author, it's on the publisher's fault. The publisher wasn't saying that they're independent publishers. They weren't saying, like, oh, Cullen Bunn, you gotta put this in the book, or you're not gonna publish your material. But it's almost like it's a curse, almost, if you will. Like, Dark Horse is another good example of not every Dark Horse book I like, not every Image book I like. I would say my top 5 indie publishers, number 1 is Image. And it's track record wise. Like, yeah, there's some Image books I've hated, but a lot of the Image Image comics I've read in the past, I walked out, like, really enjoying, like, Saga, Wayward, Paper Girls, even Man Eaters was kind of so bad it was good. Bitter Root, just all these bangers. I just, and yeah, Dark Horse had them, but I haven't read a whole lot of Aftershock, but I just feel like, and that's why I've been collecting the Image when it comes to physical books that I'm showing off that, for comic calls, and then for comic calls, that's why it's been Image. It's why. TLDR for another reason is because I'm a completist, and Image is like the best compliment for being a completist. Like, hey, here's this two volume series, 12 issue series. It's done forever, so you get the 2 volumes, and that's all you need for that series. But going back to Hero County, Hero County by Cullen Bunn. So Cullen Bunn is like one of my favorite writers, and Hero County is another great example of why that is so. Now, Hero County, unlike other series like Cold Spots and I don't know why I can't think of any others, is not as fast paced as those are, and I think Cullen Bunn, in my opinion, is better at writing mini-series than he is at writing ongoing series. Ongoing series he's so good with. Like, Magneto is still phenomenal. This series is still phenomenal. But Cold Spots has the better pacing overall. This has some slow parts, has some slow points in it. And I never thought I would say that with Cullen Bunn. Cullen Bunn is usually, even with Magneto, he was usually more fast-paced. And not expecting that, there were several points in Hero County where I was like, this is considered to be his magnum opus, and as I went along, as I read more and more, I began to understand more and more why this is considered to be his magnum opus. I would still give this an 8 out of 10, but a very complimentary 8 out of 10, and it's definitely a recommend for me. What's not I recommend, this is a good example of Dark Horse not publishing the best books, is The Victories. If there's a pick of the week, then there should also be an avoid or shit of the week. I was trying to Ryan pick with something else, but that's like, I can't think of anything. Sec of the week, that's stupid. Dick of the week, trick of the week. You guys probably gonna come with a bunch of examples, but there's also be a non-pick of the week. Oh, that's terrible. A avoid of the week, skip this of the week, and this is a skip of the week. This one, it wasn't terrible, unlike with Hero County. As it went along, it would get better, but never to the point of Hero County, where with Hero County I was excited to read the next issue after a while. With this, I was dreading it. This was homework to finish. Now, this is a thick book too, but it's only 21 issues. Only. But it felt like it was 30 plus issues. It was just a slog to get through. Now, it definitely was like one of those books that as it went along, I was more and more surprised. Oh, we're already done. Nice, we're already done. But still, felt like homework to read each new issue. And it's honestly one of those books. I hate to be this cruel about it, but I'm just gonna come out and say it because I won't sugarcoat it. It's one of those books that taints the author's reputation for me. Like, I will hesitate to pick up anything else that Michael Avon Oeming has written because of how much I didn't like this book. How much it felt like homework to read. Now, Stan Lee, like, a good example is Stan Lee. Like, he wrote Fantastic Four. Not even judging it as a Silver Age story, I really like the Fantastic Four stories. Like, just as, in general. Not even as, oh, it's Silver Age, so I'm doing it more, no, just in general. And then something Avengers was always homework to get through, like how this was, but more so with Avengers. So there was Silver Age, or the pacing was awful back then compared to nowadays. So yeah, going by that standard, Stan Lee standard, yeah, not everything Michael Avon Oeming is going to be as bad as this, I'm sure, but it kind of does taint it. Kind of like how last time when I read a bunch of books from like the 80s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, early to mid 90s, I would say like over half of the stack of books I was reading. It was a good stack. it kind of did the kind of that tainted that era of comics. I was kind of like, you know what, but this stack might be mainly that's how it was anyways. But with this stack, I'm glad it's mainly modern stuff because I'm kind of sick of the older stuff because of how the pacing was in those books. And it's kind of how it was. It's kind of how it is for Michael Avon Omen. Kind of taints it for now, at least. It taints my overall feel for Michael Avon Omen's work. Enigma by Peter Milligan. Not his best work, but still good enough. Oh yeah, so sorry. Victories, I would give like a 4 out of 10. I didn't do it. You know what? I'll do it right away. Enigma, 7 out of 10. This is good, but not great. Not Peter Milligan's best. Not Peter Milligan's. I don't actually know what his worst would be. It's just an alright book. One that I think I need to read again, though. So those of you who are pissed off that I am giving like what's it's probably considered to be an underground classic, and many people that grew up with the series, I probably do need to get a second read through because it's one of those books that a lot is thrown at you, and it does require at least a second read through for you to give your full thoughts. And that is a huge criteria I want to give, is that this is not my full thoughts because of that reason. I'm not reading it for a second time. But I will read it for a second time. Because the readability factor is still pretty high. That's why I still give it a 7 out of 10, but not anytime soon, probably. Still worth checking out, though. Still kind of like, if you like that kind of like Grant Morrison-y feel, but not Grant Morrison, that's what this will give you. But even then, like, Grant Morrison is another favorite author of mine. I kind of feel like that was, like, Grant Morrison could have done a better job of doing that than Grant Morrison could have done a better job of doing that than Peter Milligan did. And ironically enough, he has a quote on the back of the book. Next up, this is What If. It's never a surprise. Shouldn't show this off. I actually didn't show this off at all. This one is one shots. It's 6 one-shots. So I'm going to review them individually. First up, we had Flash Thompson by Jerry Conway. That would be an 8 out of 10. Maybe even a 9 out of 10. I wanted more of that. Not because it ended too soon. No, I wanted it to be more fleshed out. Like that. Like if it was like the pilot season for Image Comics, where each of these books were like competing for what would get an ongoing series, not ongoing. So what would get like an ongoing, or more plausibly, a mini series out of all 6 of these. I would say Flash Thompson Spider-Man, but there's a couple. It'd be a hard choice because there's the other books in here. X-Men. What the hell? What If? Brian Hill. That was pretty bad. It was a bit of a slog to get through. I didn't think it was all that great. And they're going for more like kooky, weird, like trippy X-Men book, and that was dumb. Not super dumb, but it's kind of monotonous, I guess is a good example. The What If Peter Parker became Punisher was another disappointment because it wasn't really Punisher. I like the changes they made, like because I didn't want to make him actually Punisher, but Spider-Man, because he's killing everyone. Like, he definitely still has that Peter Parker, that setback that Peter Parker did, but if you're doing Peter Parker as Punisher, and you put him through the shit that you're putting him through, you can't not have him kill people. I'm sorry. It can't happen. But I do like the change they made. There's several changes they made that I was like, okay, I like that one. Okay, I like the ending. But overall, I give it like a 6 out of 10. What If Marvel Comics went metal with Ghost Rider by Sebastian Gerner. That was a really good book, and I was surprised because Sebastian Gerner, I got his image work, rest of his image work this past month. So it was kind of funny that but just so happened to read this, and I was like, oh, Sebastian Gerner. But I give that one an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed that one. By far my favorite, though, was What If Thor Was Raised by Frost Giants by Ethan Sachs. That I give a 9.5 out of 10. That was really investing. I want more out of that. But I think it also had a definitive ending, too. Like, Flash Spider-Man could have more of it, because it kind of ends... The way that it ends is it's not really a cliffhanger, but it leaves more... You have like a spin-off, not spin-off, a mini-series that takes place right after the ending of that one-shot. With Thor, Frost Giants, yeah, they could do it too, but I feel like Flash is I sooner pick Flash than Thor Frost Giants, just kind of funny to think about. And then What If Magic Became Sorcerer Supreme by Leo Williams was forgettable and boring, honestly, and kind of not monotonous, but what's the other word to use? Monotone? I don't know, but just bland. Black Widow by Kelly Thompson. By far Kelly Thompson's magnum opus. Another pick of the week, a 9.5 out of 10. And a good enough something on point for Black Widow fans. There's several other Black Widow books you could read, but I think if you want something that's like more modern and that's the newest Black Widow series, I would say go here first, definitely. And one of the most unique stories I think I've ever read for Black Widow. Like, it's kind of like, okay, it's pretty unique. Yeah, not wholly unique, but one of those things I'm surprised hasn't been explored more often. Definitely worth checking out. Even if you're not a big fan of Kelly Thompson's writing, which I can understand. I would say Kelly Thompson's hit or miss for me. I didn't like her Deadpool run. Really enjoyed her Jessica Jones Blind Spot. So much that I'm dying to get Purple Daughter, but nice amount on sale. It's pretty expensive for the Kindle edition, which is technically only 3 issues. Longer issues, but still only 3 issues. Then you have something like her West Coast Avengers run I really liked, and Captain Phasma I really liked. So I would say more hit than miss, but Deadpool I just thought was kind of bland. Not super bland, not Leo Williams magic bland, but just kind of like this is the not necessarily it's the best you can do, but your board get better, that kind of thing. And I kind of thought it was a bit dumb too, and not in a good way. Next up, we have Osborne by Kelly Sue DeConnick. An easy 7 out of 10. This is a book I got at a discount. I'm glad I got a discount. I would not have paid $16.99 for this. And I would say that the most you should pay for this is $10. Because this is an older book that no one knows about, so it should be in every comic store if they have it at least. It should be in their bargain bin. Now, does that mean it's a bargain bin book? No, I'm just saying how old it is and how it's kind of like dated too. It's the way that it's technically an event tie-in. That's for Civil War, the original Civil War back in 2000, back in the mid to early aughts. I'm sorry, mid to late aughts. So it's kind of one of those books that's kind of like dated in that respect, but I think it's still worth checking out. And this is probably one of the best examples of Kelly Sue DeConnick. Her early work not reflecting her politics or anything like that. Now, I've not read anything by Kelly Sue DeConnick that was really preachy. I've not read her Bitch Planet, and that'll probably be where I eat my words, but so far I've liked everything Kelly Sue DeConnick has written. Not read a whole lot, but I've read a good amount. Not a very good amount. I've read, I'd say I still say a good amount. I've read this, her entire Captain Marvel run, which is now to get an omnibus, so there you go. And then her Wonder Woman Black Label book, the Historia book. So all in all, I would say I do recommend this one, but at a discount. But mostly because of what the book is, not because of the writing. I would say I'll say everything else but the writing and artwork. And honestly, it's kind of funny that Emma Rios is the artwork here, and has the same creative team behind, Pretty Deadly, her other image work. Venom Homecoming by Mike Costa. I thought this was pretty good. Now, I read 2 Venom books. Both of them were surprises. I didn't show them off initially. This one, it definitely did leave me wanting more, and I'm glad of where it ended, because the main character it'll be too much away. But it's good. It's also a nice little, like, unique take on the Venom symbiosis relation between human and symbiote. I think that was done really well here. It's kind of almost the antithesis of what you'd expect from Venom. And I thought that was pretty good. It showed that the Venom symbiote had some growth because of his symbiote, because of his hosts, and now he doesn't want to be the way that the character is. And it's an antithesis of how it was originally. And I think this is a really good, solid run. 8 out of 10. However, the reason why I'm kind of like not like, oh my god, this is a really good Venom run, you should check this out, oh my god, is because Venom by Rick Remender complete collection volume 1, completely blew Mike Costa's run out of the water. Now, I've not finished either this or Mike Costa's run. I'd almost say, going by issues, I'm at the same amount. How many issues are left, not how many issues I've read, of course. So, like, judging it based off of that, I would say I'm on the same page. If anything, it's probably more of this to read than more of that to read. And this is 12 issues. That's 6. Now, there is one issue that kind of taints this all-around book. All-around enjoyment of this book, and that's the Venom What If Deadpool, which was super disappointing my first read. This is the Venom Deadpool. This is a half reread. Half of it I read before, half of it I hadn't, including the Venom Deadpool book, which I read before. But all around, like, when it's everything but the Venom Deadpool book is really damn good, and it gets better and better and better. And there's so many surprises, so many like surprisingly some heartbreaking moments. A moment that I was not expecting at all. It's not like a super shocking moment, but it's one of those moments where I was like, wow, they did that here and not in. It doesn't make any sense to it. Spider-Man, sure, but they did it here. Yeah, it makes sense because it's the character we're focusing on, but still, damn, okay. And it's one of those things I'm surprised I hadn't heard about before, because of how much comic book content I watch on YouTube. But definitely recommend. And because this is a half and half, I would still say it's more. I would say it was a read for the first time. So I would still say it's the pick of the week. It's still a read for the first time. 9 out of 10 for Venom. Maybe even 9.5. X-23 The Complete Collection. Apparently I read all this beforehand. Apparently it's a reread. All around a reread. Not half it, not 75%. No, 100% a reread, apparently. I didn't know that. I thought it was like half and half. If anything, it was like maybe 75% at most. But nope. 100% of this book I've read before. And this was such a nice book to come back to read. Again. I did watch this off. It's the weirdest blemish thing I've ever had on a book. And it's best shown here. Good enough. Right here. What is this right here? It's not tape. It doesn't feel like tape anyways. Like, how did that happen? I don't know. But all around, this book is a must-read for anyone and everyone. If you like X-Men books, if you want to know more about X-23, if you want to know, if you want just a damn good storyline, if you're damn good storytelling, if you want more of the authors here, I just want more book and I'm not even gonna read because there's it's a complete collection, so it's not all the same author. I'm not gonna do what I did for What If and review each individually. They're all standout, excellent books. None of these books I dreaded reading. I was like, thank God that's over. No, all these are standouts. All these are spectacular, and all these are worth reading. And I give this book a 10 out of 10, honestly. Next up, we got Thor: The Complete Collection by Jason Aaron, Volume 1. Solid stuff. This, now, for the longest time, because this was just the first story arc, the God Butcher arc, whatever the first volume was, not this complete collection, the first volume, I guess the first 5 issues or so, just based off of that, I had declared that this was my favorite run of Thor, hands down. Nothing else would compare to it. And so far, I would say Kieran Gillen's technically it's not Thor, but rather Loki, but so far that's my favorite. But this is a worthy contender. And this, worthy, haha, very funny, no pun intended, is a worthy contender to being one of the best Thor runs, and it's definitely not overrated at all. It definitely deserves the omnibus treatment, and definitely is worth checking out. 8.5 out of 10. Some minor pacing issues here and there, and that was mainly because I was, for whatever reason, I was expecting it to be a lot faster paced because based off my first read through. But maybe it was because of my first read through, I didn't expect anything happening at all. But even then, because it had been so long, I couldn't tell where I left off on. Because again, it was like, well, it's the first volume, I know that much. Was it 5 issues, 6 issues? I don't know. Based on my little markings, I think it was issue 6. Next up, we have Runaways. Very few rereads give me the same exact feeling once I finish them that they did the first time. And this does it 100%. This is the easy 10 out of 10. Brian K. Vaughan is among one of my favorite authors now. Like, yeah, it's a reread, no, but how that changed. That's how good this book was on a reread. This is 100% a recommend. I don't care if you have to pay $40 for this book, or even 50. I mean, pay 50, I'd say, is chip in for the omnibus. But this is well worth checking out 100%. Like, this is just the easiest recommend that I can ever recommend. Worth checking out. Get this immediately. 10 out of 10, obviously. And the best thing about this book is that it's the best, and if you want something that's more independent Marvel, like if it's like a more independent film, but it's a Marvel book, this is the way to go. They don't even, like, honestly, this could be anyone's first Marvel book. They do reference Marvel heroes, but they're like ones in the movies they already know. They don't reference someone like Puck from Alpha Flight or anyone from Alpha Flight. Maybe they do, but jokingly. But even then, it's very brief. There are some Marvel heroes that show up, but again, they're from the movies, without giving too much away. And I know later down the line, there are several spin-offs. There's not spin-offs, tie-ins to events. I know they have one for Civil War, and which is also a crossover with Young Avengers. But for the most part, and at least for this volume right here, this can be your first ever Marvel comic, and it should be. This is the best place to go. And if you want something that's modern, and it's just fast-paced, like, this is the prime example of a binge read. Marvel Zombies, now I have this again. Now, I don't, they did here was they didn't tell you, in the credits page at least, who wrote what, but I know off the top of my head. Now, first we have Mark Millar. He did the Ultimate Fantastic Four issues of where the Marvel Zombies made their first appearance. They made their first appearance in Ultimate Fantastic Four 21, which, key issue collectors will know that. 100%. Probably know that. Well, I know that for a fact. Not for fact. I'm trying to say the word, but it's not coming to me. Robert Kirkman has the best stories in here. The actual Marvel Zombies the actual Marvel Zombies miniseries. Unfortunately, only the first one is collected in here, and I wish it would be nice if they just kind of like just at least in the second one. Because Reginald Hudlin's Black Panther issues, it kind of felt like he was obligated to have issues, 28 to 30. It was almost like he was contractually obligated to have those 3 issues be a Marvel Zombies crossover, as it really does show. And that's definitely the least enjoyable of this entire run. Overall, I'd say it's worth checking out. I wouldn't say just to check out the Robert Kirkman and Mark Millar stuff and skip the Reginald Hudlin stuff. I would say read this entire book, because Reginald Hudlin's only a few issues anyways. But definitely worth checking out. I would say, overall, because of the weaker issues, a 7.5 out of 10. But still recommend. Simpsons Comics Supernova almost got me back to where I was before with Simpsons Comics. Now, a TLDR for that is that I kind of grown out of Simpsons Comics. Not the TV show. The first 10 seasons, every now and then, I'll watch them and then just relive the glory days, and they'll be just as good as it was the first time. But with the comics, not so much. And I kind of had, like, I don't want to say a bad, I'll say a bad track record. I kind of have a bad track record with reading the Simpsons comics. I'll read them, I'll be like, this is good enough, but it kind of reminds me of those modern Simpsons episodes that at best were the ones that people said, oh, an underrated gem from modern Simpsons, and at worst was like, this is why the show's running. This is why people say the show's running for too long and it isn't funny anymore. But this had some decent stories in here. But all in all, I would say it's glaringly apparent reading this series that this was probably supposed to be people's first introduction to the show. They're really younger. They're 7, 8 years old. It's the 1990s. Parents are more strict back then than they are now because nothing like a Simpsons had been done before apparently. Before then, so when it came and it was like they barked at hell and said damn, and said down with homework and all that shit. It was a very controversial show. It's that just those brief like this because Bart was ruder and it was a ruder show. Now this was people's introduction. Like, okay, we don't want to get Jimmy right on Simpsons. Let's give him the Simpsons comic, and then we'll start with that, and then gradually get him onto the TV show. So he's been wanting to watch a TV show. Let's give him the comics. It still has the same feel, but isn't as rude as the TV show is. Sometimes it is. The best example of it being just like a show is with the Futurama crossover. I am still surprised that it's still the same age demographic as Simpsons comics in general. It's still kind of all ages, but not really. Like sometimes he'll have Bart say help, mostly he says heck instead of hell, and doesn't really say too much rude shit. Maybe he does. It's not like too terribly rude. It's like what a kid show would say. Even back in the 90s. But the Futurama crossover has some surprisingly, like, suggestive, like, straight out says what they mean, not like they allude to it. It straight out says it. And it's like, damn, alright. And I'm gonna say it twice, too. I'm not giving away what it is that they say, because it's really funny. Like, it might remember back to that comic book. It's the first thing that comes to mind. So I don't want to spoil it. Just go read that. That's the one I'd say to go read. If you want to read a good Simpsons comic. This one is good enough. Decent. 6.5 out of 10. The weaker issues hurt the book. And also worth mentioning, almost every issue here is written by Ian Boothby. If you're skeptical like me, because of my takes on Simpsons comics, if you see Ian Boothby in the credits, pick it up. Fringe, Beyond the Fringe. Very forgettable. I honestly could not remember how I felt about this. I remember liking some of it, but I can't tell you like what overall how I felt about it. But I would say based off of the good issues, I vaguely, and it wasn't long ago either, I vaguely remember saying like, yeah, this is stand up. But overall, I'd say maybe maybe a 6 out of 10, I guess. I don't know. Forgettable. Batman and Broken City, a huge disappointment for my favorite writers. And Creative Team overall. Creative Team is the same as 100 Bullets, which I need to finish. I read the first 19 issues, and already I was like, get the omnibus, get the rest of the series. Library doesn't have the full series, get the omnibus this Christmas, and the rest of the series. Best decision ever. Even if the library said, oh, we have it, but you have to put the ISBN in. Because back then I didn't know how to do that. But even if I did that, and I said, oh, we have all these, even then I'd be like, nope, that's whatever. My next is how good 100 Bullets is. I need that in my personal collection. Now, I shouldn't know, was I expecting it to be as good as that? No. I always knew his Batman run, Brian Azzarello, by the way, I didn't mention that already. I knew his Batman run was not considered to be one of the best among fans of his work, and everyone kind of said it's kind of weak. But overall, like, even his Superman book, everyone seems to hate, I actually kind of liked, because the writing was solid. Here it was honestly kind of boring. Now I think I'm gonna reread it a lot better, and as it went along, got better and better. And overall, I still give this like a 6 out of 10, but that's very damn low for a Brian Azzarello book. Next up, we have 2 volumes, and the second volume was a surprise. But I think it still said, yeah, it was only 2 volumes. If I have time, I'll check out the second volume. I did. 2 volumes of Batman and Robin by not Patrick Gleason, that's the artist, but written by Pierre J. Tomasi. And this was like what I like to call PP, perfect pacing. This book was like just not balls to the wall action, but it's like really like investing, and it kept going and going and going, and never really let up. Some issues were a bit slower than others, but not really. This is, if you want something that's going to be like very fast pacing and have the if you want like peak Batman, check this out. Next up, we have Detective Comics Volumes 1 and 2. Now, usually, I just say overall how I feel about this, because overall it never really changes. And like Volume 2 gets worse or gets better. But this book was very, very flawed. Oh, so, sorry. I keep forgetting to do this. I'm sorry. This is a 9 out of 10 for Batman and Robin. But yeah, so this is very, very, so, I'll start over. Batman Detective Comics, written and drawn by Tony S. Daniel. Now, usually I don't review the second volume, so usually I feel the same way. It's either as good as it was or as bad as it's always been. It never usually gets so much better or so much worse. Sometimes it does, but oftentimes it's usually the same. It's consistent. However, here it started out really slow and kind of bland and kind of boring, but as it went along, it got pretty damn decent. So overall, I give this series 6.5 out of 10. Now, I have a huge complaint with the second volume, and this is the way the book is formatted. So I was reading this book, and I was like, alright, faster pacing, still feels like the same amount of issues, and I went to the back of the book, and I was like, wait, issue 0 can't be this long, the annual can't be that long, right? Don't like the annual. Why is it like the issue 0 is 60 pages long, even though on the Kindle it says 60 pages? Why are all these, what are all these backups here? Where are all these from? Let's look it up. Yet again, DC Comics puts the backups for like issues 8 to 12, not in the back of the issues themselves, but in the back of the book itself. Why the hell does DC Comics think that's how people read comics? I was none the wiser, and I'm a completist, so I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize it was too late. I found out the hard way. It's not a huge complaint. I don't know why DC Comics does that. I know, I'm saying that, so it should be like, oh, you should be used to it by now. Not really, because it's always surprised when it happens. But all in all, I thought it was good. The backups were really good, actually. The backups were like, it was like 30 pages of backups, and as it went along, got really fast paced, and it was like 2 of them went by as quick as that. Yeah, they're like what, not even 10 pages each, but still. Like two felt like one kind of thing. Next up, we have Batman and Gotham Knights Transference. This is the first volume in Devin Grayson's run on Gotham Knights, and I would not blame you if you said, oh, this is a Batman and Gotham Knights book. Came out in the early 2000s, and honestly, the only thing that anyone will ever take away from it is that it had the backup stories that aren't included in here, thankfully I'm like kind of Kindle. The backups were Batman Black and White, and they're done by prominent authors. Now, all around, I would say this book is good. I would say this is a solid book. It's a good example of Devin Grayson being a somewhat underrated writer. Somewhat. I mean, kind of ludicrous to say she's somewhat underrated even then. But today's standards, I guess? I don't know. Because everyone knows who she is, especially because of her Nightwing run, which I have not read yet. I was going to, but they didn't have it. They had it, they didn't. Libraries, they had it, they didn't. I don't think there's Kindle releases of it, and there is. Actually, there is. There's a bunch of shit along. Anyways, but this one was solid enough. Some stories were weaker than others, but all around, I would say this is a 6.5 out of 10, maybe even 7 out of 10, because of how good these issues are. It's a standalone issue here. It's 2-part. It's really damn good. But this is also a good example of you don't have to have read what was going on for the most part in Batman lore in general. It's kind of like a nice little, not entirely out of continuity, because Oracle is there. So it's not entirely out of continuity, but not constantly like No Man's Land. This takes place in Batman 632. This took place at Batman 485. I think only a couple times they did that, and I think there is one crossover with Batman No Man's Land. I don't know if it was here, but I don't think it was in any of the new 52 books, obviously, so I had them in here. But, all around, pretty damn good. Maybe it was in decent. Maybe it was in the Batman Brian Azzarello book, I don't remember. Dial H for Hero is another good example of a series that maybe went on for 12 issues too long and probably could have been 8 issues. I feel like when you're not focusing on Miguel and Summer, it hits a nosedive. It hits nosedive. It just derails so quickly. But the strength is when you're focusing on the main characters, and that's when the writing is the best. This is a solid series that I wholeheartedly recommend. It's a reread. All around 8 out of 10. It'd be higher if it wasn't for those issues I wanted, the weaker issues. Superman Action Comics. Now this is another example of what they did in the backups of the back, but here they kind of sort of let you know. So if you're flipping through it, you see something like. First of all, I tell you where each actually did They did that with certain comics too. Like you're flipping through the book, you see, oh, what's this? Oh, it says Action Comics Backup Adventures. Okay, I flipped the book. Thankfully, I did. There's backups here, and this is a reread, so I knew that going in. Now, one complaint I have with this printing is it's a misprint. There it goes like issues 1, 2, 3, 8, 5, 6, 7. It's really weird. And even then, it's not. It's still, even then, it's more out of order than I said it was, and probably that it was. But it wasn't too bad. I think what Grant Morrison, part of me thinks it was intentional, because some of them are standalone issues, and if you're going like let's say it's called Superman versus the manic robot, Superman versus a manic robot, parts 1 through 4. Part 1, 2, and 3 is the first 3 issues. Then issue 8, because the next those remaining issues in between are like little like standalone stories or whatever. But not everyone is. It was kind of weird, but all around I said this. I thought it was pretty good. My voice cracked. All around I say it's pretty good. This is definitely a good example of a new 52 book being better with its changes it makes. I think people give it too much shit. The new 52. I get it. Back then, it wasn't like the Ultimate Universe or Marvel, where if you didn't want to read the Ultimate Universe, no problem, and you still want to read a Marvel comic book, modern Marvel comic book, you had the main line universe, main 616 universe, and I get that you didn't have that with New 52, but even then, like there was a lot of DC books that are coming out, and you had at least 3 decent to great new 52 titles. Like I haven't read a new 52 book I've absolutely hated. And I've read a good amount. Not all 52, mind you, but a good amount. All-Star Superman. This is Grant Morrison's magnum opus. I thought it was pretty damn good. Sorry, I'm forgetting 7 out of 10. And I thought it was pretty damn decent. 8.5 out of 10. I want to check out the movie now. I understand people like it. Maybe read it again. I don't know. But definitely the standout is I think it was the second issue. And there's a lot of things that, because this is technically an Elseworlds tale, so they're able to push the envelope. And I think when it does, it's like, this is what we want to see in Superman comics. There you go. And thank you. There you go. This is what we wanted. But all in all, I'd say it was just really good. You know, it's not my favorite Superman book. That is still American Alien. But definitely among the top 5. Mr. Miracle by Tom King. Finally, a pretty damn good Tom King book. Now, it still has his tropes. It still has the mommy wife. It still has the, like, her being, like, her fighting most of Mr. Miracle's battles. Still has the hypocrisy between the man and the woman. There's a scene here at the end. This is not. I'm not gonna give too much away. Where the character is swearing a bunch, and Mr. Miracle swears a bunch, and his wife scolds him for it. And I think she swears, like actually saying it, and Mr. Miracle's like, "Why? Oh, you can do it, and I can't." And she's like, "It's different." And he's like, "How is it?" He's different. And then it kind of like move away from it. She has to say something else. There's more going on. And it's like, wow, okay, do you want to explain what that is? No, you're not going to, are you? Fuck you. Okay, cool. And it was one of those things I was like, why not explain it? Oh, I know why. It's kind of like, stupid. No, that not derail my overall enjoyment. That was, if anything, I'm like half partially joking. It wouldn't offend me or anything like that. It was kind of like, oh, well, I see how you stand on people. You stand on your own human, your own right, and your own gender, Tom King. Cool. But and how like he's definitely submissive. But anyways, towards women. But all around, I would say this is it's 7 out of 10. It still isn't going to turn me into a Tom King super fan or make me understand people really enjoy his stuff. But I am slowly but surely understanding it. I do need to revision. That's my next Tom King book. It's a revision because that was one I absolutely loved. That turned me into not Tom King's super fan, but a casual fan of his work. And when I found out it was something that interested me, and I found it was by Tom King, I picked it up. Harley Quinn, Black, White, and Red. A good example of it's written by several authors, it's an anthology of not every story being good. But usually in these types of anthologies, there's at least a few standout issues. Here, the only one I can say off the top of my head was the Sam Humphries one and the first one by Sage on Sagepick, which is a sequel to Harleen. A quick sequel, which is only 8 pages long, but a sequel to Harleen. Those are standouts. Everything else was monotonous to boring to bland to terrible to awful to annoying. Not the best book. But again, like I keep saying, stay with me now, I think a reread will improve this book. Because when I say that, I usually mean that, like, I feel like I should have enjoyed it a lot more than I did, based off how I feel about, like, these comics in general, you know? I'm not a tough critic at all. Even with Tom King, I'm not a tough critic. I'm tougher than I am for most, because I'm more... I know you guys say this word because as teachers, and I hate this word too, but because teachers said it to me in the past. But I give Tom King. See, I think Tom King has a lot more potential, and it's more because of how everyone just bows down. We're not worthy to Tom King's work, and then they say, "Oh, Mark Millar is X-Lord. Oh, the boy is X-Lord. Oh, Brendan Azzarello, he's a good author. No, he's not." It's like, the fuck are you talking about? I know it's your opinion, but what the fuck are you talking about? But in something like this, like, I'm not a tough critic, and something like this should just at least be mildly enjoyable. But maybe because I was reading these all in one sitting, basically, I took a lot of breaks. I had to. This is how monotonous these issues were. But I think that reread this would improve. But and then I'm like, let it go. A good example of a reread not really improving on my first reread is Whatever Happened to Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen, by Matt, I think I'm funny that I actually am, Fraction. Matt, just read Sex Criminals, it's much better, Fraction. Matt, you picked this up because you really enjoyed Sex Criminals and Hawkeye, the first volume that I read at least, Fraction. Matt Fraction is worth you a lot more. His Hawkeye run, I think, is really solid. I think even now, if I read it, even the first, I read the first volume, I read the second volume, I haven't finished it yet, I feel like it would still hold up. His Sex Criminals was, like, one of those books, again, another good example of a damn good Image book. I'm glad I have it in personal collection, even though the library has all 6 volumes. I'm glad I have the compendium, I get it. Actually, there's Joy the Man in the compendium. I have a little, like, the O sticking off a little bit, so it's like even more than an O. But this is like, it's almost like he was either in fear of being canceled because of Sex Criminals, or DC Comics was like, you can't do any of that shit, and he was had a very huge setback. But even then, like, his Hawkeye run, I was never like cringing at the jokes. At this, like, almost every joke I was cringing at. My God, this guy thinks he's funnier than he actually is. There's a review on Goodreads that says that, basically. It starts out by saying he thinks he's funnier than he actually is. But all around, I do think this is a good enough book. I would say 7 out of 10. No, that's way too high. Sorry, I would say 5 out of 10. This is a 5 out of 10, too. Mr. Miracle is a... I say it was 7 out of 10. Here we go. So we'll take right away. 9.9 out of 10 for Lois Lane. This is phenomenal. I'm so glad I decided to read this one again. This is a lot better than people think as they say it is, and super underrated, and don't listen to critics. So one time I'm gonna actually say that, because they got all bent out of shape, because the first volume was very reminiscent of what was going on with Trump at the time, and I get it. That's kind of done with that. I don't like when comics do that either. They're like, we're comics. We can say that stuff because you're not hype, man. You're a Lois Lane comic. You can do that, but I don't know. But even then, like, and I'm not super into politics, but even then, you could have told me that afterwards, and I've been like, oh, that was what it was. All right. Like, it's probably, if I was more into politics, it would probably, or I knew what was going on at the time, because it's been out for a long time. But back then I was keeping up on politics. But even I wouldn't remember what was the main connection. But even then I was like, okay, the second issue is the 12th issue. Second issue, 12th issue is actually a story, and it's a really damn good investing story. I think towards the end it gets a little bit convoluted, unnecessarily so. It's weirdly convoluted. I don't know if they were doing a tongue-in-cheek thing. They were. Why? but all around, I'd say this book was good. When it gets convoluted, it's still enjoyable. But it's like, you went here, I was like, in this, why didn't you suddenly go to left field? You were doing good where you were. But all around, a 9 out of 10. And worthy of checking out. Ex Machina by Brian K. Vaughan. While not as good as other stuff, it is still really damn good. 8.5 out of 10 is worth checking out. Now, and when I was reading this back in the day, because I read this several times before, not this entire book, I would say, let's say, here, maybe. Like most of this book, most compendium I've read, but it was in the individual volumes, of course. And I'm glad I decided to buy this myself. The library has all 5 volumes. I found out the hard way. Again, there's the ISBN. I had to put the ISBN for the little search engine. And now you can get it for free if you have a Prime reading account, which I do. You can get all 5 of the hardcovers for free on Kindle. You won't tell it's a hardcover, obviously, but that's what I'm trying to say. Just so you guys know, like, oh, is it the volumes or is it the hardcovers? It's a complete collection. Like compendiums, complete collection. It's 5 of them collecting 50 issues. 54 actually. But this one was really damn good. I really enjoyed it. And the first time I read it, I was like, oh, this storyline isn't too great. This one's better. This one's not good. Every single storyline I really liked. There was not one storyline I was like, thank God that's over. I was like, oh, it's over. I think every storyline never overstayed its welcome. I think this is definitely worth checking out if you want to check out more Brian K. Vaughan. If you haven't checked this out yet. 8.5 out of 10. I already said that. Batman the World, 6 out of 10. Not bad, not great. Nothing too groundbreaking. I do think it accomplished its goals, but didn't exceed those goals at all. Like it could have and should have done. And the goals being it's Batman stories told from around the world. Which I think that should be done more often. Like they should have like a Wonder Woman one and do like kind of like they did with Earth 1, and how they kind of did with I guess Black Label. It's not the best example. Superman Wonder Woman, 7.5 out of 10. Pretty decent, very fast paced, almost perfect pacing. Worth checking out, but I'm not gonna clamor to check out Volume 2. JLA Tower of Babel. Gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I didn't like this one that much. 6 out of 10. Very disappointing. I just thought that it would be a lot better than it was. Now, it was already disappointing because not all this book is Tower of Babel. It's like, Tower of Babel is like, what, maybe 3 issues out of the 8 to 10 collected in here. I have no idea why that is the case, because it's Tower of Babel. Now, I'm hoping, because this is in the middle of the Grant Morrison omnibus, maybe the Grant Morrison story picks up off that, because this is Mark Waid chipped in while Grant Morrison is working on other projects, I believe, or I imagine. So maybe Grant Morrison picks up after Mark Waid leaves, but I don't know. It's Tower of Babel, so it's conclusion. So I don't know. But it's just, I thought that there would be more to it than there was. And there should have been more to it than there was. All around disappointing, 6 out of 10. Freak Angels by Warren Ellis. Another great example of it's not, obviously it isn't the way it was, but it's Avatar Press. I don't have the best track record with Avatar Press, even with really damn good writers like Warren Ellis. And that's why I pick up more Image books, and I avoid Avatar Press a lot more than I do any other publisher. And that's why I decided to it wasn't ever like I was lying awake at night and I was like, which indie publisher should I get? Well, Avatar Press had this book I didn't like. No, it was mainly because I was back in May. I was getting mostly Image books. So when I realized after my birthday, I was like, let's take off what I was gonna get, because I was already, I was like, I don't know the hell to get, because there was just so much I wanted to get, and I was like, no, this, no. I was like, you know what? To get all that off, we'll do Image books, and then since May 2022, I have not looked back since. But yeah, Freak Angels, get a bland. It's 5 out of 10. Because I felt like the characters weren't all that interesting. The story wasn't all that interesting. It was not up to Warren Ellis's like super high standards. Kind of reminded me of the weaker issues of Transmetropolitan, and why I don't put Transmetropolitan because of the weaker issues. Why when I'm doing a top 5, I usually put it towards the bottom of the list. But anyways, Zombies Christmas Carol. Much improved with a reread. I want to say this again. Every time I read this book, I'm going to say it. This is not the Marvel Zombies, like Captain America zombie fighting Charles Dickens character. No, it's not fighting, or Ebenezer Scrooge fighting the Marvel Zombies. No, it's just it's just the Christmas Carol with zombies as a brief backdrop. If you've read the story, you should know where the zombies come into play. It's exactly what you're thinking of. But even then, it's a backdrop. I don't really fights him per se. Like, he does at some point, but it's like, even then it's kind of like, okay, cool. And kind of seems like it's over when it's over before you even think of it. It's over before it begins, kind of thing. But all around, I would say this was pretty decent. Like, I would say this is, judging it as its own thing and not as Marvel Zombies, it's very good. And I would say 6.5 out of 10. Last but not least is POS, otherwise known as Piece of Shit. And this is named that because the character kind of is a POS. Now, I got this book for $4. Sticker fell off. And I'm kind of surprised. This is a lot better than even books I paid full price for at Newbury Comics. Now, sometimes I bought them right when they came out, of course, but even once they had forever, and they never put in their bargain bin, even though they had it forever, and you'd think they would do that, because that's why it's the reason why they put it in the bargain bin, is because, oh, we've had this book, same exact printing, same exact book, not just a new copy, no, same exact copy for ages now. I'm saying that is better than most ones there. Now, there are certain parts in here that made me kind of hate the character, but he kind of redeems himself. It kind of is like a redemption arc book. I would say it's worth checking out. For a book this thick, it was surprisingly fast-paced and surprisingly investing. I would say this was an 8 out of 10 book. 7.5. Yeah, 7.5 sounds a lot better. And that, as they say, is that. Definitely better second cut. First cut I had, and I was just like I was too rushed. You know, it was almost an hour with that one. It's like 55 minutes, so like shy of 5 minutes for an hour. But going over like 40 plus books, I think that it needs to be at least an hour and 16 minutes, or at least what it was. At least an hour. Because if you do 40 books times 2 is 80, and you know, some of them I talk for longer than a minute. Yeah, okay, some of them I talk for like quickly, like I did with Freak Angels, but still. So that, as I say, is that. Now, from now on, because I'm going back into technically going back to work, because I'm going to work, and I'm not going to have as much time to film and to read the books, I need to read to finish them and all that shit like I would do, and I still want to do weekly uploads, I'm going to push videos further than I should. Like, when I get the rest of the library books, let's say, hopefully, on Wednesday, I'll be recording it that night, or whenever I can, but uploading it next week. I really want to try my best to do weekly uploads, and I think it's the best way to do it. So you probably will get more like, oh, these random little videos. In fact, my 750th video, if I can manage it, if I remember, is going to be my room tour, right, the comics kind of thing. So, look out for that. But that, as I say, is that I'm filming for an hour and 18 minutes. It's probably a lot later than you think it is. So I'm going to get out. I'm going to end this video. That's it.